Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. I have with me Usher from Cricket4Us 2.0, and we are going to go over the second and third T20 internationals between Australia and India, and then also do a nice little wrap up of what we thought of the series as well. How are you doing, Usher?
I'm good. I'm good. Just what a series, man. Just had a lot of fun. Loved it.
It was nice to see some fresh faces, wasn't it? I think, even though I would have liked to have seen two full strength sides, but yeah, it didn't disappoint too much. I thought the T20s are pretty good. Okay, let's go into the second T20, which I think is the most dramatic one of the series, anyway. To be honest with you, so Australia won the toss, and to be honest with you, they posted a pretty big total, 194, which looked pretty impressive at the start. Matthew Wade, obviously, the standout, 58 of 32, got out in the most bizarre way, didn't he? Chipped it straight to Kohli. Kohli dropped another catch, and then, but well, I guess made up for it. And nice, simple throw into the keeper. Matthew Wade and Steve Smith are trying to decide whether to run or not. It's just a shambles, really, in the middle from them. And yeah, ended up getting out like that, which was pretty bizarre way to get out. Strike rate 180 though, and yeah, what do you think of that?
I thought he batted very well. I think he got his 50 in like 25 deliveries and then slowed down a bit.
Yeah,
And captaincy suits him, looks like. And that opening slot, if he's there, it seems like he's a better fit there than anywhere else in that squad, especially if there's no David Warner. You have a left-handed batsman to kind of replace or put him in that spot. So I was glad with his performance. Like, it was really good. He smashed this some really nice fours as well, which looked good. I never used to think that Matt Wade was a good batsman. I always thought, oh, he's okay batsman, but a decent keeper. But he proved me wrong once again.
yeah, he's improved a lot in the last 5 or so years. I think he has scored a lot of runs in like the longer format as well. I think he's just
Yeah.
overall improved his batting. And there was a bit of a debate because when Tim Payne was captain for Australia, he was captain for, I think it's Tasmania. They both
Yeah.
play for Tasmania, and
Yeah.
he was captain for Tasmania, and he was keeping for Tasmania, but Tim Payne was keeping for Australia and captain. So it's just a bizarre one. But yeah,
it's
um,
it's it's like Karachi Kings and PSL, isn't it?
yeah,
Babar Azam and
yeah.
Imad
But
Wasim.
this is even more bizarre, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he batted well, and Short didn't. Again, nothing really to speak of. Smith looked good for his 46 of 38. I thought. Only struck a 120. I'll be a bit disappointed with that. I think he would have liked to have gone a bit quicker. Maxwell and Enriquez really brief innings of 20 odd, both with strike rates over 140. So Maxwell 169 strike rate, Moses Enriquez 140. And then Stoinis coming back from injury. Good to see him back. Batting at 6 in the second ODI, hit 16 off 7. Big knock just to come in and smash it about, and Sam's as well. Bowling wise, actually, first of all, what do you think of the batting innings? Do you think that was a big enough score? Because obviously it turned out it wasn't, but I thought it was a damn good score, to be fair.
To be honest, I think the way when I saw it, I think there were 120 in like 12 overs, right? I expected Australia to go 210 with the start they got. But Steve Smith being there, he did struggle a little. He eventually got his innings going, but I think Glenn Maxwell, if he'd stayed a bit longer, probably would have benefited Australia a lot more. And unfortunately, Steve Smith was, in my opinion, the weak link, barring Darcy Short because he got 9. But in terms of the people who got in and played well, I think Steve Smith should have gone on a bit longer, and that would have helped them propel them basically to a score above 200. Because, and in hindsight, as well as when I was watching it, I thought Australia should get above 200 to be competitive in this game. But one thing, and I know you're going to touch about the bowling, but Natarajan is just a class above every other Indian bowler. His economy was like 5, and
5,
everyone
yeah.
else was above 8.5. Okay, so if he wasn't there, I'm sure India would have gotten battered for over 200 runs. But his bowling, coming back, taking wickets, bowling Yorkers, bowling those slower deliveries, those changes of pace, really helped. And I think Australia should have gotten above 200. But all in all, I think it wasn't a bad score. It wasn't a bad score at all.
Yeah, I think you're right. I basically said exactly what I was going to say about Natarajan. Just very good left arm option that they've found. obviously in the IPL and domestically, and he's come in the last ODI, I think it was, and now in these T20s and bowled extremely well. Economy of 5 in that second T20, sorry, and 2 wickets as well. And as you said, Yorkers, slower balls, just seems to have all the tricks in the book and good control of his bowling. I think is the most important thing to say. It's not just about being able to bowl those deliveries, but it's bowling them accurately and at the right times. And he seems to have a little bit of that X factor. Yeah, the rest, I mean, it was, yeah, a bit of carnage, wasn't it? I mean, I think Washington and Sundar, but I guess 8.75 was the next best economy. So I think says it all. Okay, let's go into the Indian innings then. All of them strike rates of over 135. So they obviously were going at the rate from the start. And KL Rahul and Darwin got them off to a good start. Darwin obviously looked good, 52 off 36. Batted really well, I thought. And Kohli 40 of 24. But really, the biggest knock really here was Pandya, wasn't it? 42 of 22, saw them over the line with 2 balls to spare. Him and Shreya Iyer, obviously, that was a really vital partnership between those two. Do you want to touch upon India's batting and maybe that partnership a little bit?
Yeah. So I think the KL Rahul Dhawan partnership was crucial to them. I think KL Rahul probably felt bad that he didn't get a bigger score. I think he got 30 or something. And India got to 60 in the power play, which was pretty much the same as what Australia did. But then they kept the momentum going because Shikhar Dhawan batted very well, getting that 50. Virat Kohli, after Dhawan's wicket, just upped a level completely because he was going about a run a ball, and then as you can tell, he was 40 of 23, 24 after that. So they batted very well, but again, you're right about this point that Hardik Pandya was by far the best player on show. He just accelerates at a rate that you don't expect him to because he's a very lanky guy. You don't expect him to have the strength that he does, but then he just comes out with these shots straight down the ground or over the even over the offside, over cover. Like he smashes sixes for fun and scoring that 42. I think it was Shreyas Iyer as well, who hit that 111-meter six over a deep mid-wicket, which was just crazy. Because you know about this. I'm a huge fan of Shreyas Iyer and Hardik Pandya. So watching them both bat together just made me really happy. That partnership, even though it wasn't a long partnership, it was very, very important to India. And they didn't give up whatsoever. I think India needed 70 of 30 odd deliveries at one point, and Australia probably. And again, this might be an Australian negative, but basically, in my opinion, if Finch was there, Finch would have captained a lot better. He would have changed the bowlers. He would have realized who should actually be bowling at what points. I would never think that Daniel Sams bowls the last over. So yeah, there's a couple of captaining issues in my personal opinion from what I can tell, but that's just due to this is Wade's first captaincy stint ever for Australia, even against such a strong Indian unit. Even though it was Australia C versus India B basically, but it was a really good match all in all.
Yeah, I think so. When Virat Kohli fell, they needed 46 of just under 5 overs. I think it was. So look, I mean that's doable, but as you said, they need to really accelerate at that point, and it's hard because obviously both of them, especially I when he came in, just had to kind of hit from the off. One thing I want to mention, obviously Kohli hit that really nice paddle, which I think a lot of people were comparing to AB de Villiers. So I think there's a lot of hype around that six. It was a very good controlled shot, I thought, as well. In terms of the bowling, yeah, I mean, Sam's making his debut got smashed around. To see Maxwell went for 19 off his first over. Swepson, I thought looked really good. 4 overs for 25. I love a wrist spinner because I bowl a bit myself. Leg spin, and him and Sean Abbott, I thought bowled quite well. Zampa got hit a little bit, 9 over, got 1 wicket though as well. So, but yeah, apart from that, this really wasn't a bowler's day, to be honest with you. Let's be honest, so don't need to touch on it too much. But yeah, Hardik Pandya, man of the match. I thought that was rightly so. Okay, let's go on to today's match then.
Yeah.
So Australia again coming into bat. Matthew Wade again, another 50 for him, 80 or 53, looked good. 150 strike rate. Finch came back in, got a duck, which probably now thinking he should have given it a miss and just sat out. But Steve Smith, again, he struggled 24, 23. Maxwell, look, I mean, there's a very similar theme in all these games. Wade got a big score. Maxwell going at a good rate, got 50 odd. And I think they got to 186, which on this pitch I thought was not as batter friendly. I thought, and they did quite well. What do you think of the Australian innings today?
I think one thing I want to say from the offshoot before talking about Australia's batting, India's fielding was almost as bad as their fielding in that first ODI, because I think they dropped at least 2 catches, right? There was at least a couple of run-out chances or stumping chances that were missed. There were misfields. Then their entire bowling, what do you call it, like extras, they bowled 12 extras. Chahal got a wicket off a no ball of Maxwell. Maxwell got so many chances today. So, before I even talk about Australia's batting, I think India lost it in the field, lost the entire plot, because Australia ideally would have been 160 if everything had gone, if they'd taken their catches and everything like that, and didn't bowl, so many extras. But now coming to the batting, Matthew Wade batted very well. Again, getting a 50, didn't take too many risks. There was this point, I think in the 10th or 11th over, where he was technically LBW and he was out, but Virat Kohli reviewed a little late, or the production team actually played the replay earlier than the 15 seconds were up, and Virat Kohli went for the replay and for DRS, sorry. And the third umpire said, no, you've seen the replay now, you can't really review it. So that was a bit unlucky on the Indian standpoint, but Wade batted very well. Finch just coming in, as you said, didn't do much, smashed one straight down deep mid-wicket's throat, and or somewhere down there, I can't remember where he smashed it. And then Steve Smith struggled a bit. Maxwell got a lot of chances, but at least made up for it because he hit Chow for like 2 or 3 sixes, which he looked good for. He kept moving to the offside and smashing over the shorter leg side boundary. But the way he got out was just utter, I don't want to say this, but stupidity on his part. It's a low full toss on middle stump, and he's trying to reverse paddle it, right? It's Maxwell for you, but it just didn't make sense. I don't think there was anyone else in the Australian batting who made any effort, but everyone else, I think, on the India bowling side, though, everyone bowled well today. Even though they were hit, I think that was more better batting than bad bowling.
Yeah, agreed. I think when you're dropping catches and the fielding is really sloppy, as you said, that makes a difference of 15, 20 runs in a T20 game. And that ultimately was the difference, to be honest with you, between the two teams in a way. Although we'll move on to it in a bit later, but some of the Indian batsmen did have chances as well. But yeah, the bowling unit I thought was pretty decent from India. Natarajan looked quite good, and also Washington Sundar and Deepak Chahar as well looked quite good. I mean, no one got hit for over 11 and over, so that's probably a good sign at least. But yeah, Steve Smith struggled again, and I thought, look, I mean, Matthew Wade, the way he got out was a bit tame to call. I mean, he shouldn't really be getting out like that, just trying to flick a ball, which was pretty, it wasn't anything special, the ball from Tuchel. So, but look, I mean, he did well, didn't he, when he was in? So I don't think Australia can complain about that. Okay, onto the Indian innings then. So KL Rahul out for a duck, basically mirror image of Aaron Finch, 0 off 2. Darwin 20 out of 21, probably a little bit slow for his liking. Swepson, I mean, I thought bowled so well. 4 overs for 3 wickets. 4 overs 23, 3 wickets, 5.75 economy. I just thought he was so good. Maxwell bowled really well as well, to be honest with you. So did Ty and Zampa, all four of those bowlers. I think spin obviously was quite crucial on this wicket, especially for Australia. And obviously Kohli, 85-61, batted really well, but got a reprieve on 10, which I remember messaging you about because in our cricket WhatsApp group, because this, I mean, look, I made fun of Kohli for that catch, but this from Steve Smith, I can only describe it as absolute dolly, and that's I just had to almost leave it there. I mean, the ball's come to him, and it's not like Kohli skied up in the air. I think he's gone to flick. He's flicked. Who was it? It was Maxwell. It was Maxwell because
I
Maxwell's
think
really
it
annoyed
was
after. Yeah,
second
so
over. Yeah,
Maxwell, and he's just flicked it, and he's basically chipped it all the way down to, I think it's like, so we're looking at wide mid on boundary, and Steve Smith is basically watching the ball, and it's almost like he's lost sight of the ball, or he's failed to track the ball properly because he's put his hands out here, and the ball just hit him in the chest, and it's popped, and obviously he's just then trying to catch it from off his chest, and it's impossible, so he just drops it. Um, it's just so bizarre. And after, obviously, you can see he's really annoyed by himself. There's only two ways I can explain this happening. Is one, he wasn't paying attention and he switched off for a second, and he just lost track of the ball. Two, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what the second option is because he's just such a good fielder normally. I watched it and I just thought, what the? And it's lucky because, to be honest, he nearly dropped the game there. To be honest with you, for them, because Kohli went on to hit 85, and at that point, I
yeah.
think he was on 10. So I mean, they would have had a lot of. He made it a lot harder for the Australian team. Yeah, what do you think of that, and also Kohli's innings?
Right. I just want to say something. Even the best players drop catches, okay?
But
Right?
not like that, though. Not like that.
I think, yeah, you're right. He probably lost track of it, or he was just fiddling around with his hands, and he was like, "Oh, there's a ball coming towards me. Let me just stay here and just drop it." In his defense, he did take 3 catches in the entire game, so I'll give him that. He came back and took 2 more catches, which was good going on his part. Virat Kohli played a very captain's kind of innings, right? He played a captain's knock, even though he was batting at above 135, 140 strike rate. He just kept the runs ticking, right? What he hit? He hit like 7 boundaries, right? 3 sixes, 4 fours. But all in all, ran a lot of singles, a lot of doubles, exactly what he needed to on this pitch, because everyone else, and I mean everyone else, seemed a bit out of it from the Indian batting side. No one seemed to be comfortable on this pitch. It was gripping. At least it looked like it was gripping a little, especially for the spinners. Swepson, as you already mentioned, bowled very well. A couple of his wickets were kind of half trackers or kind of a low full toss, but that delivery to Shreyas Iyer was just beautiful. That was just an amazing delivery to
Yeah, I
get
mean,
an LBW.
he opened up with a half tracker, and I was like, oh no, this might not be a very good and like bowling display from him because but Cuddy just tucked him down to mid on and went on his way, and he's like, okay, great. And then he's talking to Aaron Finch confidently. He doesn't care. He's like, he obviously, I think he's played, I think it's more than 20 T20 internationals now, so obviously he knows like what field he wants, how he's supposed to bowl his role, etc. And yeah, I mean, you're right. There were a few half trackers in there, but as a leg spinner, that sometimes does happen. But it's how you make up for it in the rest of the delivery. So he did well there. You said no one looked comfortable. I agree with you. I think the only other person that looked comfortable was Takor when he came in 17 of 7. Those 2 sixes just smashed it. And at one point they needed, I think it was a 6 every ball. I think they needed, and yeah, he was definitely fancying it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He was definitely fancying it, but then I think he ended up hitting a single or a 2, and then obviously it was mathematically impossible from there. But yeah, I think the bowling display, as you said, was pretty good, and they'll be happy to at least get a consolation win from this match. To get whitewashed at home in any series is not ideal.
The 2 leg spinners, I think, were probably the key for Australia, because I know you mentioned Maxwell bowled well. He really did. It was like, I know I think Swepson got the man of the match, but Maxwell kind of deserves it as well. He almost got 2 wickets. He fields well all the time.
He hit 50 odd.
He got 50, yeah, right. So maybe he was another shout, but I think Zampa and Swepson together, that leg spinning duo kind of really works.
Yeah,
really works. And I think they're thinking kind of long term for when the T20 World Cup comes around
in India.
That's something that they would potentially look at kind of going with, because that's not a bad option. Swepson's really good. I thought he was a lot younger than that, because I think in my review I said he's around in his early 20s, right? But he's like 27. That he's got quite a bit of experience. He's been bowling well in the first class format as well. So I like the way he bowls. He's a bit more like Shane Warne than Adam Zampa is, in terms of he walks in and then goes and then bowls.
He turns the ball a bit more as well, I think.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah, I think one thing I was impressed with, exactly as I said before, that it was the spinning performance by Australia. The pace bowlers, I think there were Andrew Tye was a bit lucky. There were a few deliveries that should, according to some people, should be given wides, but because Virat Kohli had moved so far down the offside, they didn't give it wide. And that over it was the 15th over, I think, to Virat Kohli or something like that. 2 runs came off it, and India needed like 70 runs at that point. So that kind of turned the tables, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's wrap up the series then. So, what are the takeaways then, firstly, for Australia from this series, do you think?
Swepson and Matthew Wade should be given a more regular chance in the side, I think. Especially, I think it was a blessing in disguise, David Warner getting injured, because it told the Australians how good Matthew Wade especially is. Swepson is such a good bowler. I wasn't as impressed with him in the first game, but since then he's actually come back very, very strongly. In terms of the bowling, Australia's pace bowling isn't as good as their actual pace bowling. So no Hazelwood, no Stark, no Cummins. They're, for lack of a better term, their bench strength isn't as strong in terms of the pace attack as India's, at least in my opinion. That's another thing I think they should look at. And in terms of the batting by Maxwell, I think Maxwell's in form right now. So using him as much as possible. I think he's playing in the Big Bash as well, isn't he? So that'll kind of keep him kind of up to track for the T20 tournament next year.
Yeah, he is. So, yeah, I agree. I think Swepson is definitely a good find. And that, as you said, in India, they're going to need probably a second spinner, most likely on most tracks. So I know there will be different surfaces in India, but on the whole, I think you're still looking to have a second or third spinning option, which they have because Maxwell can bowl as well. Yeah, I agree. Look, I mean, the secondary pace options they have are not anywhere near as good as your Pat Cummins, Hazelwood, and Stark. So I really missed them in that third T20 for sure. But I think, look, I mean, Matthew Wade is an interesting one because if Warner and Finch are fit, I think Wade looks more suited to open. So I don't know what they're going to do with that because really having it at 5 and stuff is not ideal.
Because I would think they wouldn't play Darcy Short. So Matthew Wade comes in instead of Darcy Short because Wade is their main keeper, I think, in T20s. Yeah. Enriques goes out for Stoinis, right?
It's a bit harsh.
I think probably Stoinis is going to come in instead of Enriques. Even though Enriques hasn't done a bad job at all.
They've got 2 good options there, haven't they, though, I think?
Yeah. Maxwell won't get kicked out. So again, Matthew Wade may sometimes come in at 3 instead of Steve Smith. Because I know, I understand Steve Smith is an amazing batsman, but sometimes there is a scenario where you might send someone like Matt Wade. Maybe you want that left-hand, right-hand combination to kind of work.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, and what about India then?
Just one word, Natarajan. That's about it. That's all I want to say. Because this guy, like, I can't wait for Bumrah and Natarajan to bowl together. I think every Indian fan on Instagram, at least, was like, we were hoping in the third T20 we'll get Bumrah and Natarajan, or the second one or something, right? But they're both they don't bowl the same in terms of action-wise, but their thought process seems very similar. They're both bowling Yorkers, slower deliveries, and their bouncer is quite, it's quite difficult to read how high it might bounce. So I think
skiddy.
Skiddy, that's the one. Thank you. So they're both quite skiddy. So I think that's one huge takeaway from the Indian bowling lineup. And in terms of their batting, I tell you what, there's nothing that surprised me. Like Hardik Pandya, because I saw him in the IPL, and before the IPL, he said, for lack of a better term, he said the same thing that Smith said, that I found my hands, right? He said, this is the best I've ever been hitting, right? So now, what he's done in this series as well kind of tells you that he's an amazing batsman. And those are the 2 takeaways, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, Natarajan's a big find for them. I think they'll be happy with that for sure. In terms of batting, you're right. I mean, it's not really anything new. We know that Pandya can hit a long ball. We know that he's good in this format and he can accelerate. We know that Kohli's obviously one of the premier players. And interesting to see, though, what happens when Rohit Sharma comes back. Do you think Don will get dropped in the T20s? Because in T20s, I think Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul are more probably suited, I think I would say, to T20s.
That's a very good question. So that's something that everyone's been kind of talking about. And I think I would drop Dhawan any day because
Yeah,
he's a great batsman. I would always put Rohit Sharma above him. And if KL Rahul is keeping, then KL Rahul, and he's opening, I think he deserves that spot. I think personally that Sanju Samson should be dropped, even though he hasn't been given that many chances. And a lot of the expert gurus are saying he needs to stay in the side for a little bit, and then he will perform. And when he does perform, he will be an asset to India. I agree with that statement, but at the same time, if they want to try other people out, I'd probably bring in Rohit Sharma instead of Sanju Samson because Dhawan hasn't performed badly.
Well, and then put Rahul at 4.
Put Rahul at 4, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Maybe put Rahul at 5 and put Shreyas Iyer at 4, Pandya at 6. But again, they're apart from Virat Kohli and Dhawan, I think everyone else can kind of float around in that Indian batting lineup.
I think there's an issue potentially if you do it too much. Obviously, we know people don't get settled, but yeah, I agree with you. They're interchangeable. So they've obviously got options. Interested to see how they go. Yeah, I mean, obviously they're coming out of this series in a strong way. This is the first T20 they've lost in, I think, 8 matches. I might be wrong.
10 matches.
10 matches, sorry, yeah. 10 matches, wow. So they'll be a little bit disappointed with that, but they'll be happy, I think, with the series as a whole. I think, and the fact they've had that run.
It's a record that they've kind of set now, I think, in the most T20 wins or something like that.
Consecutive wins, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I just want to mention before we wrap up, that India's fielding was the biggest downer of this entire white ball format. Because, like, it's been terrible. Like, it reminded me, and I don't mean this against any, like, particular team, but it genuinely reminded me of Pakistan's field, right? I don't mean it as a dig at Pakistan. I'm just saying Pakistan fielding is great sometimes, and usually it's about mediocre. But India was doing mediocre / even bad fielding in this series against Australia.
I mean, the fact that Kohli dropped 2 catches in the T20 series says it all. He's supposed to be one of the top fielders in the game. I don't know what's happened there. Maybe it's to do with isolation. They haven't had as much time to train. But I think they need to get themselves whipped into shape a little bit. Obviously, they've been playing IPL and there's all this kind of hype around hitting long balls and bowling Yorkers, etc. But fielding is so important, as we know, in the modern game especially. And look, I mean, Australia, apart from that Steve Smith catch, I thought they were pretty good in the field. And the whole white ball series, for me, they're always pretty good anyway. And look, I mean, India will be looking at that thinking that's something that we can improve on. And that will help them 10, 15 runs in some matches even. So yeah, I agree with you. Pakistan's an interesting one because I thought we became a very good fielding side under Mickey Arthur. We discussed this, but as of late we've now dropped a little bit, and maybe similar to India, Pakistan need to look at that as well because that's quite an important area that needs to be improved, but probably a topic for another video. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
No, just this series made me really happy. I was excited about it, and the test matches start in about a week and a bit.
Yeah.
So that'll be very interesting. Pakistan's T20 start against New Zealand on the 18th. So looking forward to your reviews for those, definitely. And if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to Quality Shot. Great channel. Love your videos.
Thanks, Ashton. Yeah, I'll put Ashton's Cricket4Us 2.0 subscription icon at the end of this video as well. So please check out his channel if you haven't already. And yeah, if you guys haven't watched either of our channels or you're new to the channel, you'll know that we do quite a lot of collaborations. So you'll be able to see the playlist on both our channels for where we've collaborated as well. Check that out and check out our other videos as well. Okay, stay safe, guys, and I hope to see you guys on the next video. Thank you, Ashton, again for being on. And yeah, thank you, guys.